Good evening. My name is Cameron Hughes, and I'm a junior at Brewer High School. In my high school career, I've been a participant in basketball, am a captain, starting running back, and outside linebacker for the football team. It gives me great pleasure to tell you about the 1968 Brewer High School Witches football team. The Witches exploded. Witches razzle, dazzle, confuse, explosive and tricky, a club that couldn't be denied. These were the headlines after the 1968 Brewer High School football team won the Class A Maine State Championship title. This was the greatest football season in the school's history, posting a record of 11-0, the first Brewer team to win a Class A championship title, and ranked number 5 in New England. It was a season of records with a team of 100 players. This team led the state in offense, scoring 335 points, and led the state in defense, allowing only 68 points. 4 players, Mark McEwen, Dana Folsom, Steve Sprague, and Dana Corey, were selected to the Class A All-State First Team. 4 players, Rick Franks, Dan Gass, Dan Daw, Roman Maximic, were named to the Class A All-State Second Team. Class A records were set by Steve Sprague, Dana Corey, and Mark McEwen. The championship season coaching staff consisted of head coach Ken Perone with assistant Ralph Breyer, Mike Connolly, Tim Marcoulier, Harold Pressey, and Ron Treat. Along with their dedicated cheerleaders, over 3,000 fans consistently watched this team. Often in adverse weather conditions, won by the Timothy Gagan Trophy, returning to Brewer after defeating arch-rival Bangor in 1912, snapping powerhouse Biddeford's 28-game winning streak, cheering on the 11-game winning streak. The Class A state championship game was a battle between 2 tenacious defensive teams. South Portland scored a touchdown in the third period but did not convert on the extra point. In the fourth quarter, Brewer senior Steve Landry intercepted a pass, then with 4th down and 6 yards to go, halfback Steve Sprague fought his way into the end zone. Dana Corey kicked the extra point for the Class A football championship. At this time, I am honored to introduce Coach Ken Perone. Fire up.
First of all, I want to take a little detour. In the back row, we have somebody that traveled all the way to Florida, from Florida, and he was a dear friend to all the athletes of the 1960s and 70s, and he made a special trip up here, even though he's up in age like I am. And I'd like to introduce him. You all know him if you were here in Brewer in the 60s and 70s. I'd like to introduce Winston Lynn in the audience. Winston, will you please stand up? Thank you, Winston, for being part of our program. You did an awful lot. We love you. Wow. 53 years ago, it's hard to believe that this team played and excited the fans of Brewer along with our beautiful cheerleaders and our pep squad and bands 53 years ago. When I left here, these guys were only 17 and 18 years old, and now they're in their late 60s, early 70s, and our coaches here are in their middle 75, around 75 to 80, and I'm not going to get to where I am, but I'll give you an example. This winter, Rick Franks and Steve Tart have called me, and they said they had to make a film for the Hall of Fame. And I was in Fort Pierce, Florida. They were over on the other side of the state. So they came over, and when they got there, I asked them, why are we doing this? They film it anyway. So they didn't want to really tell me, you know, and they hemmed and hawed about it, and Peter Cowan was filming it. And finally I says, why are we doing it? You know, this is probably going to be a waste of time. And then finally Rick told me, he said, Coach, you're getting up there in age, and the committee was a little worried about maybe in another year you wouldn't remember you even coached this team. And then, of course, my wife had told, you know, these guys way back that I go to bed at 9 o'clock and I have trouble staying awake after 9 o'clock. And you notice, thank God I'm up here before 9 o'clock. It's 5 minutes to 9, so I may get through this. And of course, I reminded these guys also. I said, you're worried about me and my age and everything. I know I'm in the fourth quarter. The clock is ticking down. I don't have any more timeouts, but I'm going to play for overtime, and I plan to be here well into my hundreds. And you can bet, I promised you, Rick, and I promised you, Steve, and Ralph Payne, and a number of you guys out there, that when I reach 100, I'm going to be wheeling half of you guys around some nursing home. Now, sadly, along the way, we lost 25 members of our family, our football family. 22 players, a coach, our Brewer Witch, and another coach. And I wasn't going to do this, but I feel remiss because, again, they were such a part of our team, and now they're playing for God's team. So I might get a little emotional here because these guys were like sons to me. And it'll take me only 25 seconds of my 7 minutes that I'm allowed up here. Quarterback, Donnie McLaughlin. Running backs, tri-captain Roman Magzimic, Dana Susi, Dick Coyne. Our ends, George Moran, Don Dwyer, Bruce Hughes, Scotty McLaughlin, Pat Lucy, Greg Venable. Tackles, Terry Kelly, Walter Musson, Ron Gogan, Brian the Bear Baker, Leo Grass. Our center, Dave Gagan. Our guards, Freddie Olson, Bobby Kearns, Larry Coolidge, Wayne Gray, Skip Lenfess. Our managers, Danny Day, Brian Lawrence, our freshman coach, Hal Pressey, and our Brewer Witch, Brenda Ham. I also like to mention Harry Estes, who is the freshman coach for these guys. And Harry's one of the big reasons why I came to Salem. We were in the National Guard for many years together, and we were really good friends until Baps played Brewer. That week he wouldn't talk to me. So when the Brewer job opened up, he said to me, hey, the Brewer job's open up, why don't you apply for it? He said, then we can be friends all year, and I won't have to stop talking to you. Well, to make a long story short, I took the Brewer job, and Harry was such a great help to me, and I just wanted to point it out. These people, they will be missed always. They will be loved always, and they will be remembered always by their teammates, their fans, their student body, and especially this old coach. In my 6 years of coaching at Brewer, I was blessed with great, great coaches. And they're all here tonight. Ronnie Treat and Mike Conley, two outstanding athletes that played here at Brewer and then coached with me. Ralph Breyer, who came from Belfast and was a long-time coach here and teacher here in Brewer system. And my right-hand man, Tim Marcoulier, who played for me at John Baps and coached with me at Brewer and Salem and has been with me for 30 years and my true friend and some guy that I can always count on. Will those guys just stand up and be recognized? I want to personally thank you guys for helping me make Brewer great and the 1965 team great. I think of 3 Ds when I think of the Brewer team. Depth, we had 107 ball players. I'd stay in the hall, and if a kid could chew gum and walk, I'd grab him and say, why aren't you out for football? Desire and dedication. This team had all 3. I think of life, and I think about this team. Life is an opportunity, benefit from it. They did. Life is a dream, realize it, and they did. Life is a challenge, meet it, and they did. Life is luck, make it, they did. Life is a lot of hard work, do it, they did. And in life, if you want something bad enough, you'll work like hell to get it. And this team did. And that's why they became Brewers' first undefeated Class A state championship team. People still talk about the happenings every Friday night. If you were here in the 60s, every Friday night was a happening here at Brewer. It started off with our beautiful cheerleaders leading the parade down Wilson Street to Doyle Field. It was followed by a police car with the siren blaring, a fire engine with it blaring, and then a big flatbed truck with cardboard cutouts with the names of the teams we had beaten, and a big, big sign on the side said, "Rest in peace." And again, a lot of teams did rest in peace after we took care of them here. We won 17 straight at home. It was hell for teams to come here. As George Hale said, we marched down with Curran Furnham's band, 100+ strong, playing Georgie Girl in downtown, a big, big, huge pep squad, and then 107 football players marching single file down. We entered the stadium, and we had so many, and Winston commented about that last night, and a lot of people don't comment about, you know, what we did that year, but they always say, were you the coach that had 107 football players and they'd surround the field and intimidate everybody? We'd surround that field, and George Hale would say, well, score 12 points for Salem just on intimidation, because the other teams travel with 35 players, and we would parade 107 kids around the field going to our exercise line. And of course our crowds went wild, and it was just a great, great atmosphere and a great time to be a Brewer Witch. We have a lot of great memories and a lot of great accomplishments, but I don't think anybody that was in that era will ever forget that. Along the way, we started out our season in 1968, and we slaughtered John Bapps in Waterville and Rumford, but we hadn't met the contenders. And in our first year in Class A, I learned an awful lot. We went down to Edward Little, and they slaughtered us. In the process, though, I found a great player who was going to be one of the best backs that I've ever coached, Steve Sprague, and we grew even though we took an awful beating. The following week, we went to Biddeford, and we took another awful beating. The following year, we played the first 3 games, and everybody was wondering if we were just a contender or a pretender. And Edward Little was coming to town. They were the North favorite. Everybody thought that, you know, they would dominate us once again. They had most of their team back. And we had a great, great football game and beat Edward Little. And that was probably the pivotal point of the season, because now the kids realized that they could play with anybody, because Edward Little was one of the top teams in the state, and again, the team to beat in the North. The following week, Biddeford came to town, and to the surprise of everybody, again, it was pointed out, Biddeford had won 28 in a row, 3 state championships. They were a powerhouse. And we had one of the greatest games that I was ever involved in, and I think one of the greatest games in Brewer history, with a packed house, both teams undefeated, like a championship game should go. It went right down to the final seconds, and Stevie Tardif intercepted a ball with 12 seconds to go. And if I had been introducing Steve tonight, I might have given an impersonation of George Hale, what it was like, what George said. But again, I'm restricted to 7 minutes, so I'm trying to get done in 7 minutes. So we upset them, and then we played Bangor, which was another key game, and we beat Bangor 19-12. It was the first time Brewer had beaten Bangor in a number of years. And of course, the state championship game against South Portland, again, we were a big underdog to a big, strong South Portland team, and we bent a lot, but didn't break. They led most of the way, 6-0, until the last drive when Dana Corey hit Mike Legassi on a long pass down to the 1-yard line. We got pushed back to the 5, and on 4th and 6, the do-or-die play. We're either going to be a runner-up or a state champion. We gave the ball to Mr. Reliable, Steve Sprague, and he got into the end zone with a great block from Mark McEwen and a great job by our whole line. Dana Corey kicked the extra point, and we, again, this team became Brewer's first undefeated state Class A championship. Nobody can ever take that away from you. The 1970 team broke all kinds of records, but nobody can take that away from you, that you were the first team to do it, and you set the tone for the 1970 team to become the greatest one of the greatest in the nation, finishing number 5. In closing, I like to leave this thought with you. God's gift to you is your life. And what you do with that life and what you continue to do with that life is your gift to God. I want to thank you for being one of the 5 coaches. I enjoyed my 6 years here. I live and die, still live and die. I come up here all the time and try to get 2 or 3 ball games. People up here like Dave Utterback and Dennis Kaya and Dana Corey and the kids that played for me and Danny O'Connell, they've been wonderful, make me feel welcome all the time. I still feel like I belong here. But without a doubt, and I've coached in 5 different schools, this is my home and my best as far as being a coach. I enjoyed this. I enjoyed all my schools a lot, but Brewer will always be awful deep in my heart, the orange and the black. I'd like to, at this time, call up Rick Franks and Dana Corey. Are they up here? They're going to introduce some of our cheerleaders. I think 4 of them in the crowd tonight. And I'd like to say a couple of words about our cheerleaders before they come up. They were always last to leave the gym. I would be finishing up and closing down the gym area where we had practiced, and the girls would still be out there working hard, making signs for the field. The next day they would bring black and orange streamers and decorate the houses and write lyrics before the Bangor Brewer game, and it would be played all week long, a song that they had written for the Bangor Brewer game. I can't tell you how hard these girls work, and I always thought of them, because they got the crowd going, I always thought of them as our 12th man. And every time we crossed the bridge after a win, they would lead us in stand up and cheer for Brewer. And as they do today, every time the Brewer team scores, everybody in the stands stands up and sings stand up and cheer for Brewer. And we scored 335 points, so we were getting up an awful lot. And again, I will always remember these girls, how hard they worked for us, and what a great group they were. Rick, would you please come up, and Dana? We had 10, but I think there's only 4 here tonight.
Back again. How's everybody doing? Okay? All right. As Coach mentioned, the cheerleaders were just a part of this whole experience that was wonderful Brewer football. Tonight, we are honored to have 4 of the cheerleaders with us. So what I'm going to be doing is calling your name. You'll come up to the stage. Dana will present you with a rose. And by the way, Ann Pooler, I can't see for the lights, but Ann Pooler, would you please stand up? Ann was there she is, right there. She was the cheering advisor that made these people what they were and supported us. And these roses are a gift from Ann that we just happen to be presenting. So thank you very much for that, too. So I'm going to call your name. You come up, get your rose. Congratulations from Coach Perone, and then just stand off to the side a little bit, because it's my understanding there'll be a picture that will be part of this too. So, Carol Bailey. Okay, and while she's coming up, Patsy Langlis Bolio. And then we are fortunate, very fortunate, to have both of our captains, cheering captains this year with us. So Roxanne Langlis-Wheeler. And last but not least, Kathy Briggs McSimic.
At this time, as we did on the 1970 team, as I said before, these cheerleaders would lead us and stand up and cheer for Brewer every time we scored. So for all the inductees tonight, all the 6 inductees in the 1968 Brewer championship team, these cheerleaders and Rick Franks and Dana Curry and myself are going to lead you and stand up and cheer for Brewer. So if everybody's standing, let's hear that noise. I want to hear that Brewer spirit. Are we ready, cheerleaders? All right. Stand up and cheer for Brewer. Cheer for the Brewer victory. Cheer for the good old witches. The orange and the black for me. Rah, rah, rah. Cheer for the alma mater. We're telling you she is swell. So fight, fight, fight for Brewer. Thank you. And at this time, it is my pleasure to introduce the 1968 state champions Brewer football team.
Under the leadership of head coach Ken Perrone and assistant coaches Ralph Breyer, Mike Connolly, Harold Pressey, Tim Marcoulier, and Ron Treat, the 1968 Brewer football team was comprised of 101 athletes. We are honored to have several players in attendance at this year's induction ceremony to receive their team award. However, before recognizing the team members here tonight, the Brewer Athletic Hall of Fame would like to take a moment to recognize those team members who are not in attendance. Those team members in alphabetical order are Steve Acorn, Michael Allen, Fred Bean, Steve Bishop, Rod Black, Larry Booker, John Bowden, John Cameron, Steve Campbell, Wayne Campbell, John Carney, Scott Clark, Charles Colson, Richard Coyne, Tom Coyne, Mike Daigle, Dan Day, Bobby DeBeck, Rick Duffy, Don Dwyer, Dana Folsom, Dan Gass, Chris Gagan, Mike Giles, Dana Goddard, Rick Goddard, Ron Gogan, Leo Grass, John Linward Gray, Dana Hamill, Dana Hart, Bruce Hughes, Robin Holyoke, Terry Kelly, Frank Kenny, Fred Ted Kenny, Philip King, Brian Lawrence, Skip Lenfest, Patrick Lucy, Dan Maher, Richard Marston, Earl Mazarol, Mark McEwen, Nat McLeod, Dave Morrill, Bob Morse, John Morse, Walter Musson, John Norris, Lee Omart, Fred Olson Jr., Wayne Parley, Craig Rand, Herb Robertson, John Butch Robichaud, Dick Savage, Wallace Seymour, Don Shand, Frank Sonny Shaw, Dana Susie, Bob Tardif, Dennis Tate, Bill Taylor, Bruce Thibodeau, Mike Trask, Greg Venable, Wayne Watson, Rick Waters, Bruce Witten, and Robert Yoder. At this time, we'd like to introduce Hall of Fame committee member Ann Pooler, who will now recognize those deceased players whose family members are in attendance tonight to accept the team award on behalf of their loved one.
So I'd like accepting the award on behalf of Bruce the Bear Baker is his son, Chad Damon. Accepting the award for Larry Coolidge is his widow, Johnny Coolidge. Accepting the award for David Gagan is his great-nephew, Isaac Gagan. Accepting the award for Bobby Kearns is his brother, Ronnie Kearns. Accepting the award for Roman McSimic is his daughter, Tessa McSimic Peterson. Accepting the award for Donnie and Scott McLaughlin is their sister, Julie McLaughlin Lavasser. Accepting the award for George Moran Jr. are his wife, Cynthia, and son, Joshua Rancourt. And accepting the award for Dana Susi are his sister, Linda Hodgins, and brother, Alan Susi. I would say let's give everyone a round of applause. They deserve it.
At this time, we'd like to introduce Hall of Fame committee member Jim White, who will recognize the members of the 1968 football team who are in attendance tonight to receive their team award.
The first one is Bill Bytha. And if you would hold your applause until the end and give him a great big round of applause, we'd appreciate it. Gene Coleman. Dana Corey. Let's hold our applause, please. Thank you. In advance, Peter Cowan. Philip Sia. Danny Daw. Colombo de Salvatore Jr. David Ellis. Bob Fortia. Rick Franks. Dana Higgins. Wayne Kameneski. Gene Kirkpatrick. Steve Landry. Mike Legassi. Greg Lunn. Ralph Payne. Wayne Robinson. Steve Sprague. Steve Tardif. Dennis Tate. Rick White. Jimmy Young. Assistant Coach Ralph Breyer.
Assistant coach Mike Conley. Assistant coach Tim Maculia. And head coach Ken Perrone. How about a great big round of applause?